chance. Hey Piggy, just give me one more super chance. Hey Piggy, just give me one. Ooh.
When I'm with my boo, 1 and 1 miss 2, then it mix free. Yeah, we had the baby. She want Versace, she want Gucci. Gotta lay down all my bands on the Lambo, cause she don't like my Volvo, no, no. Yeah, she got a diamond grill on her baby teeth. Coolest kid in the nursery, but you know, I'm not a materialist, an idealist. I flow with the transcendental argument. Reading Wittgenstein, investigate my girl philosophically. Yeah, do you know what I'm saying? I just want the money.
Hey Piggy, just give me one more super chat. Hey Piggy, just give me one more super chance. Hey Piggy, just give me one more super chance. Hey Piggy,
yeah,
just give me one.
Yeah,
Ooh.
straight up, I'm simple for you, girl. I want my heart, want you in my world. I see you in the super chat, I see you wanna go from me. I see you on the OnlyFans and you got my heart in your hand. Please don't crush it, girl, understand that I'm a simp, but I'm proud. I'm a geek, but I'm proud. And I wanna feel your breath at a convention. I want my picture of you groping my ass to be on social media. I want my friends to see it on Discord. I'm gonna upload it to my subreddit and they all gonna see it. My friends, they gonna like it, they gonna retweet it, but I feel that it's gonna be the greatest moment of my life, and I want you to be a part of it, girl.
What's up, y'all?
Don't make me go back to that 9 to 5.
Just keeping this
Wage cut
easy.
ain't no way to be alive.
In Germany.
Don't make me go back to 9 to 5. Wage cut ain't no way to be alive. Ooh. Hey Piggy, just give me one more super chat. Hey Piggy, just give me one more super chance. Hey Piggy, just give me one more super chance. Hey Piggy, just give me one. Ooh. Hey Piggy, just give me one more super chat. Hey Piggy, just give me one more super chance. Hey Piggy, just give me one more super chance. Hey Piggy, just give me one. Ooh.
I can't hear ya. Let me hear you say it. Let me hear you say fuck Klaus Schwab. Fuck Klaus Schwab. Let me hear you say fuck Klaus Schwab. Yeah.
Just give me one more super chance. Hey Piggy,
I can't hear ya.
hey Piggy,
You say it. Let me hear you say
don't make me go back to that 9 to 5. Wage cut ain't no way to be alive.
Shodak on the beat.
Girl, why you backbiting, whispering, DMing, and talking, texting? I don't like that. It hurts my feelings.
Girl, you always out there just straight gossiping. Why you wanna do it when I got you bling? Girl, you just out there just straight up gossiping. Always out there in the streets just gossiping. Texting, 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 doing nasty things. All you wanna do is just straight gossiping. Girl, why you wanna gossip? I took you on that trip. I gave you all that stuff, all that junk. And you wanna gossip? Hurt my feelings, girl. Why you wanna do that to me? When I got you all those things, got you all those things, got you all the things. Gossiping. Why you wanna hurt me with your gossiping? Backbiting ain't nothing to all of me. Backbite, DM, and texting. Why you wanna do that to me? Gossiping. Telling my friends I got a little bitty thing. Gossiping and gossiping. Whispering and plan out. I don't care to who. Just delete all of those bad feelings, girl. Gossiping. Why you wanna be just straight up gossiping? Sending nasty text to my grandmama. Even Granny thinks that I'm a loser now. Girl, why you wanna do that? It's just mean, straight up spiteful, gross. And it's also hurtful too. It's called gossiping. Perhaps if you looked it up, you would know it's wrong. Gossiping. Why you wanna do that straight up gossiping? Girl, tag with me. Why you wanna tag all your girlfriends too? Tell them in a mass text that I love gossiping.
Shonak on the beat.
Girl, why you backbiting, whispering, DMing, and talking, texting? I don't like that. It hurts my feelings.
Girl, you always out there just straight gossiping. Why you wanna do it when I got you bling?
I say there, sir. Halt there, sir. I say, sir. You appear to have rebellious tooth, sir. We in the British government establishment do not permit, nor do we allow rebellious tooths, even though our entire country is full of those that hath rebellious tooths. You're under arrest. Your teeth are part of a rebellious tooth faction, sir. British stodgy, slow British spy dramas. That's what I'm talking about tonight.
What's up? Are you a fan of the stodgy, slow British spy drama? Well, we have it in spades tonight, baby. Please what? What are you fussing about? People in the chat always fussing.
Do this, do that. I say, sir, part of the British Secret Service, sir. We are arresting you because your teeth are too straight, sir. Your teeth are part of a rebel alliance to be straight, and they are not therefore crooked, sir. You will be confined to Supermax prison named Dumbledore.
Tinker, Tailor, Soldier, Spy. Have y'all seen it? Nobody seems to know these movies. I think people today can't handle a 2-hour super intricate plot. This plot is crazy, right? Did you guys watch it? Anybody? Am I the only one? I'm trying to figure out the best way to do this podcast because I was watching Operation Mincemeat. We had the idea to watch that the other night, and I thought this would be a good podcast. Throw in a couple of these spy stories that I've not yet done. Of course, one of the most obvious ones. I don't know why we never got to this. Sometimes you miss the obvious ones, right? Like, have you done Wizard of Oz? No. Probably the most archetypal of the mind control movies. I've never done that one. There's a couple others that we haven't done too, right? Never seen or done. I forget what. There's a couple more conspiracy classics that somehow slipped through the cracks. I can't remember why, but yeah. So we needed to talk about Tinker, Tailor, Soldier, Spy, big Cold War thing, and we're going to be reading one of Mark's great articles related to that. Everybody overlooks Most Wanted Man, which, by the way, is a John LeCarre novel, as is Tinker, Tailor, Soldier, Spy. Operation Mincemeat is, I presume, based on the Ben McIntyre book, Operation Mincemeat. And that relates, of course, to all of our time that we put into Bondology and the Bond series and Ian Fleming. So there's a lot of crazy, deep, intricate details in these British espionage dramas, which also are propaganda. So keep in mind, there's an element, obviously, propaganda to these as well. But you will find, as we always do, little nuggets, little gems, little chicken nuggets, little Chewbacca nuggets that allow us to get an insight into how the world really works. Let's start with Operation Mincemeat, because this one's easier, and it's kind of a straightforward plot. But this book wasn't written until 2012. I don't know exactly when it was declassified, but as I understand it, this was one of those things that was doubted and debated for a long time, because the way this works, as everybody now knows in our circles, right? The real story can't be told for 50 years, they say at times, depending on. Now, Britain has their own National Secrets Act, where this is what, of course, the British spy fiction writers always did, was that they would just write it into fiction. And so British spy fiction was some of the first to put what we sometimes call predictive programming, which is just really a form of either telling your story, or either doing propaganda, or either clouding a narrative. I mean, there might be many reasons why the stories would be written into fictional form. And that's precisely why so many of the British spies wrote fiction and spy fiction. And of course, John LeCarre is the classic example of that. This is the anti-Bond. Okay. LeCarre's character is George Smiley. He's the British Secret Service agent who kind of functions like a detective, right? He's kind of like critics liken him to a sort of Father Brown character, right? G.K. Chesterton's Father Brown character. He's a kind of a Sherlock Holmes. And so, although they're spy novels, I've only really read Tinker, Tailor, Soldier, Spy, so I can't speak to the other ones. I didn't read Most Wanted Man, but I did see the film, and it's always this sort of, cat and mouse, anti-Bond type of game. So, away from chicks and explosions, all right, there's not a lot of that. There's like no chicks, no boobs, no explosions. It's stodgy cat and mouse games, which is, I guess, what ye old Brits are into. They like stodgy games. Stodgy games. What's his name there? That's stodgy games. That's him. All right. He's a bloody fool, that stodgy games he is. Yeah, right. Sometimes I know that it sounds a little Australian, but a couple of the accents do sound Australian. I mean, Britain has all these different areas, right? If you don't like movies, why are you even on my channel, dude? Get out of here. So coming here to talk about how you don't like movies. Why do you even watch these movies? Get out of here, dude. Like, guys, mods, when the people are being like this, like last time, like whoever was trying to monopolize the whole Tolkien chat, just ban these people, dude. Ban these idiots. Get them out of here. Don't ban everybody with a dumb comment, but if they persist, you're out. You're out. Take them to prison Dumbledore. I forgot what I was talking about. British spy drama. We're talking about John Le Carre. Okay, so yes. So again, a character who was part of British intelligence, and then he ends up as a spy fiction writer, much like Ian Fleming. But as we said, he's the contrast to Fleming. Fleming is the creator of the propaganda, the mass franchise engine, right? None of that in this. This is the total polar opposite. I have no idea what people are talking about. Do these streams just attract complete loons? I mean, it's like, maybe it's time to retire. Like, I'm not talking about everybody in the chat. I'm talking about the crazy people in the chat. We get that same bot that shows up to, like, it's always 10 times in a row hot chicks on webcam site. Okay, nobody's going to your spam bot, dude. So the issue here then is about the Soviet mole. Okay, Tinker, Tailor, Soldier, Spy. Who is the Soviet mole? Taking place in the 70s, hot Cold War times. And I want to show you guys something. Yeah. Takes place right after the Philby Cambridge 5 drama. And I'm assuming most of our audience knows a little bit about that. Perhaps Mark's article is very insightful on this because, this was portrayed at the time as these men have betrayed the West, especially Kim Philby, right? If I recall, isn't Kim Philby son of St. John Philby, right? British intelligence as well. St. John Philby helping to establish the British imperial structure outpost of the Saudis. So he goes and befriends them. It's a very kind of parallel to T.E. Lawrence, if I remember right. That is the father or grandfather? Father. Let's make sure we're right about this. Yep. Yes, and you see him all in his garb, right? So he basically takes on the identity of the local people, becomes basically, he's called here a colonial intelligence officer. St. John Philby. Who is his son? Well, Kim Philby. And we all know Kim from Kim Philby's betrayal of the West to the Soviets. One of the most famous, propagandized, of course, to high heavens, Soviet espionage stories of the 70s. And Tinker, Tailor, Soldier, Spy, as the entry notes here, came out in 1974. The revelations exposed the presence of Soviet double agents in Britain that were still fresh in public memory. Guy Burgess, Donald McLean, John Cairncross, and Kim Philby. They later became known as the Cambridge 5, and they were exposed as KGB moles. So, of course, you have the leaking of information. Thus, David Cornwell, whose pseudonym was John LeCarre, was an intelligence officer for both MI5 and MI6 in the 50s and 60s. He was a senior SIS officer during senior SIS officer Kim Philby's defection in 1963 and subsequent compromising of many British agents was a factor in the termination of LeCarre, aka Cornwell's career. So we clearly, in this story, George Smiley reflects David Cornwell himself, right? Because we know at the beginning, John Hurt's character is the new head of British intelligence, and George Smiley has been ousted, and so he's kind of miffed. And as you can probably imagine, we will see parallels in other films tonight, especially Most Wanted Man. Again, another LeCarre story novel, because Philip Seymour Hoffman is miffed because he had been screwed over as well. So again, this is totally different than Bond. It's much more stodgy British drama, and it's symbolized by the chess pieces, right? Tinker, the Tailor, the Soldier, the Spy. And these different characters take on chess pieces. They are being played in a much larger game. Now, we'll do the movie and then we'll look at Mark's article. But in the movie, you have John Hurt sending he's the handler for the Mark Strong character, who is sent to a meeting to meet a general in Hungary. This is a botched trap situation. He's shot, and we are introduced to the idea that there's a mole in British intelligence. So Smiley, we then realize, who is still on the intelligence apparatus team, he's still kind of there in the background. He consults at times, is interested in kind of getting revenge, I guess. He wants his position back. Clearly, he's been sort of cucked by this, because we find out pretty early on that his wife is sleeping with someone else. And we don't really put too much emphasis, or we don't think that that's really that relevant early on. We don't think that it's going to really tie anything. We think that, oh, this is just, developing his character, and he's kind of a super cold, icy, you never see him laugh or smile, much like the Matt Damon character in Good Shepherd. And he's just like the most cold, icy chess player. That's it. And if you read sort of LeCarre or critical analysis of it, they point out that really this was just to show that only a certain kind of person could play or do this role. I'm gonna have to plug in, I think, the Ethernet, because there's always some drama at night. There's always some internet problems. So it should pop back on.
Oh, it should pop on. Let's pop on. Pop off. Pop on. Let's pop on to the market. Let's pop on to the pop.
They always say this. It always weirds me out. It's weird when you hear the British people. If you go to England,
oh, they pop on over there. He'll pop on. Pop, pop, pop.
It's like It. When he's laughing about the popcorn. Pop, 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 pop. Remember in It when he laughs about the popcorn? But the British are popping off. And they pop over to the Walgreens. They pop over to
the telly. They pop over to the loo. Pop, pop, pop.
Anyway, little bit of esoteric stuff, by the way, comes into this, which we'll get into in a minute. But now, as we said, this is more of a detective novel. Smiley immediately realizes there's a mole. So Smiley is told, hey, we got a secret kind of thing. We want you to spy on the spies. This is something that comes up a lot in espionage, spy stories, the meta spy. And then there's spies spying on the spies. And then there's spies spying on the spies. They're spying on the spies. And so it's this labyrinth. It's the rabbit hole. It's going down the rabbit hole. It's going into the labyrinth. It's that this world of this hall of mirrors, right? That's the espionage world. And some films reflect that. Tinker, Tailor, Soldier, Spy, I think, is partly good because of that complexity. It's probably one of the most complex plots that I can think of in a film that's just kind of a normal plot, right? It doesn't have a... Am I still here or what? Looks like... Let's check the stream here. All right, so it's supposed to have automatically switched to the Ethernet cables, right? Can you guys let me know in the chat if I'm... Okay. So we were talking, yeah, let's see, we're getting into an operation that has been cooked up by the existing establishment called Operation Witchcraft. Odd name, British intelligence, Operation Witchcraft. Makes perfect sense from from our perspective why it would be named that, but they make the announcement, anything for witchcraft. Now, keep in mind, what we've covered in this channel quite a bit is the close connections between Britain, high-level British establishment, the occult, and witchcraft. Right? We've talked about that. In fact, there was an old documentary about witchcraft and its explosion in Britain in the last 100 years. But of course, I think it's been there probably always kind of hiding, especially amongst the elite. I mean, we know about this, all the stories of the British elite, Savile, and so forth. So keep in mind that that's who, of course, is presented as the good guys here. In this domain, there's not typically good guys and bad guys. Everybody in the spook world, or it's all kind of betrayal and scams and cons and so forth. So There's no naive good guy, bad guy here. And that's one thing that LeCarre does kind of capture in a way, the complexity of the real world, of real life, of this kind of stuff. Is there no... You might have to refresh it because it says the bit rate's off. I don't know. Should be high quality. Let's see if we can... I'm going to switch to the cables and hopefully that'll help. So if it's Ethernet cables, we should be good. I had to plug it in and I had to switch it. Anyway. Where were we at? Witchcraft. So anyway, the whole story is figuring out what the motivations are and who the mole is. And this plot gets more and more intricate, more and more layered. It becomes a giant onion ring, layers and layers of onion rings. And I don't see how people watch this movie. Like, I've had to watch this movie 3 times to figure out the whole plot. I had to read different essays. Like, it's actually complex. One of the few movies that I can ever think of that was really complex, but had a mainstream theatrical release and did okay. I mean, it's got, you know, multiple big name people. You got your Benadryl cucumber snatch. You got your Tom Hardy. You got your Bane, right? You got your Gary Oldman. You got your John Hurt. Okay, you got big names here. But could you imagine even now, could any audience follow this? I mean, this is like, you got to have kind of a high IQ, I think, to follow the plot in this movie. Now, you could go read Wikipedia, I guess, and try to figure it out. But, I mean, there's so many chess moves going on. And that's why everybody's characters are placed by George Smiley. Their faces are cut out and put onto chess pieces, right? And he just kind of sits around just staring like blankly into into the night out his window and staring at these chess pieces. At least with like Sherlock Holmes, he's, you know, doing opium or something. Like, but here it's just like he's just staring. Like, he's constantly just blank stare. So there's no excitement in this movie. There's a little bit of action in a couple scenes, but basically no excitement. Totally plot and acting driven, which is not bad. It's just that you don't get this much anymore. So we find out that Smiley's going to have to do some pretty intricate case work to figure out who the mole is. He's going to have to retrace all of his life and steps, and he remembers a specific important detail, which I didn't pick up on until viewing it this time through, because I had seen this movie when it came out. But the detail, of course, is that he had met with the head of the KGB at some point a decade earlier, and thought that because he had turned so many agents into, he had flipped them, he had caused them to defect, that he could get the head of the KGB to defect. And if he could do that, it would be, you know, it would be huge. But he overestimates, miscalculates, and doesn't succeed in doing it, because his error was that he pled too much with what's the KGB guy's name? Agent Carla, a man, not a woman. So he pled with Carla on the basis of saving your wife. You got to save your wife. Don't you love your wife? And the KGB head was perceptive enough to realize that this dude has got a problem, right? He's a little too into his wife, and realizes that that's his weakness, right? So because George Smiley has given up his biggest weakness, that he has this weak spot for his wife, now the head of the KGB knows the weak point for the head of British intelligence in his personal life, personal matters. So if you paid attention this time, you would notice that that's precisely why Colin Firth's shoe scene is so important. Now you think initially, oh, when he's cheating with Anne, right? Colin Firth's character is the one that's cheating with Smiley's wife. And Smiley comes home and he notices Colin Firth there, and he sees that he's like putting on his shoe. Like,
Oh, sorry, old chap. Yeah, just overlooking the wife here. Let me get my shoe upon. The last lace there.
like it wasn't obvious, right? And so you start thinking, well, now wait a minute. If he's a good spy, Colin Firth, he could have had his shoes on before George Smiley comes home, right? And you realize, oh, he wanted him to know that he had been getting up in that thing, right? He wanted Smiley to know that, yes, I'm sleeping with your wife. But now when you watch the film, if you know the story, right, then you realize why he did that. That was actually a psychological operation to cloud Smiley's mind. And if he went after Colin Firth, it would look like he was going after him out of revenge, you see. So a very high level 66D chess thing going on here, right? It reminds me of how we're supposed to think that, why are we dropping frames? We shouldn't be dropping any frames. It should be Ethernet cable good. Is the video working? I can't tell. This is so annoying. It was CIA intelligence in the West. So he would be in an amazing position to leak information for both British intelligence that British intelligence has and the CIA has back to Moscow. So that was the overall big plot that the other KGB general, Polyakov, had been running in his mole network in the UK. This keeps saying that there's no data. I don't understand. Is it cutting out or not? I can't tell. This is really annoying. By the way, if you would leave a super chat, if you would like and share. Maybe it's because I'm doing it late at night. It seems like when I do my live streams earlier, I don't have these problems. So this only seems to pop up like at random certain hours. So maybe it's because we're doing this later than we usually do. But if you would, you can support the show via the super chat function there. I don't know how far behind the chat is. Is it a continuous stream, or because it on my side it's like it says it's dropping to 0 and there's no viewers. So are there no viewers, or can somebody tell me if the video and audio, there's a big lag in time between the video and the audio? That's weird. Okay, now it says it's good. $9,000 streaming, no drop frames. It's supposed to be good now. Maybe it's because it finally picked up the cables. It's not. Okay, it should be good now that it's not Wi-Fi. This interrupts the whole flow with this stupid shit. Okay, so back to Operation Witchcraft was actually something dreamt up. It was a trap for ultimately luring in the CIA, and it was hatched by not so bright people in British intelligence, ultimately for the purposes of Colin Firth, who is the mole. We find out later on when he's caught that he adopted anti-Western views. And he says to Smiley, this is a, what does that say? Oh, the West is gross now, right? The West, which he's kind of right about that, right? But I wouldn't say that in the 70s. That would vindicate a person to defect to the Soviet Empire. But he says, the West is gross now. We've got to have something else, you see. And did you catch the subtle, it was iffy, the subtle sexual elements? Because, for one, the Mark Strong character, I couldn't tell if he was befriending the chunky schoolboy or was he a creeper. I mean, I know he was scouting for a future potential spy, right? So he was looking for a loner who, was seeking a father figure. And notice we will find this trend continue to pop up in this literature and in this reality, that especially in British intelligence, you have orphans and people without fathers who are oftentimes recruited because that's an easy way for the system to step in as the replacement archetypal father-mother figure to then be the handler. So we'll notice handlers oftentimes functioning as surrogate mother and father figure roles, especially in the recruitment and training. So clearly that's what the Mark Strong character is doing here, Prideaux, in the film. But was he like creeping? That was kind of weird. It was unclear. And then with Colin Firth at the end, of course, when he's caught, you have George Smiley going to visit him when he's in prison. And he says, here's some money for some chick that I was with. Oh, by the way, there was also a boy. But I couldn't understand if that meant there's a boy, like I have a son, an illegitimate kid, or did it mean that I was into young men? It was unclear. So maybe somebody who knows the story really well can explain that. But a big part of the real Cambridge 5 story was that some of the individuals, I'm pretty sure Kim, and perhaps all of the 5 of the Cambridge people, they didn't like, let's put it like this, they were not fans of coochie. Can everybody understand and figure out what I mean by that? 5 British men who didn't like the cooch. Does that make sense? Does everybody understand what we mean here? Hopefully we're skirting the algorithm right. I'm not a fan of the cooch. I was about to start singing, but maybe I shouldn't. We are spirits in a material coach. Are spirits. Do you remember Sting? Has anybody heard of Sting? So the Cambridge 5, and this was partly why the Cambridge 5 were blackmailable. They were able to be turned, because of their proclivities. That was a big deal, especially for the whole espionage field back in earlier times, 40s, 50s, 60s, where when it wasn't socially acceptable, right? It was much more damaging if you could get that dirt on people. Nowadays, it's not even that kind of stuff. It's the even worse stuff, as I'm sure everybody knows and recalls and has heard of Jeff Stein McEffery. Your boy Jeff Stein McEffery. And that is about younger and younger people. You see what we're getting at here. Now, given the penchant, especially amongst the degenerate British establishment and elite, I'm going to bet that the point of what's being talked about here is male to male and younger types of things. Does that make sense? Yeah. Especially given that is what is the Cambridge spy story, right? They were all blackmail. And we'll look at that in a minute because Mark has an insightful perspective on this that doesn't fall into the kind of low IQ, Cold Warrior boomer mindset, right? We're good Americans, so we love God and apple pie. We don't like him atheist Soviet empire. As if America isn't also run by a bunch of degenerate atheists. I mean, come on. That will be important to understanding, again, overall tonight, what we're going to get into as we sort of climax this whole thing. No pun intended. Cold War dialectics, right? I mean, that's the whole point of this stuff, especially at the spy level. People are buying into all that, and they're really having these disagreements and these scandals and the espionage is going on and all this. But this is ultimately not about the good guys in the West fighting the evil atheists in the East. Okay, who actually believes that? Really? Come on. Oh yeah, man, you know, I was over there in Hanoi, I was over there in Singapore, I ended up in Nam. We had some calls for Boomer Garcia there. And, you know, it's a complex thing. You'll never understand it if I start telling you about the war, your head would blow up. And then that would trigger me, and I would jump over the couch, and I would start throwing Christmas balls at you because I thought that they were hand grenades. AKA, I would be triggered. So I think the Cold War, at the highest levels, was a dialectic, and it was intended to create the synthesis, which is the technocratic austerity order that we're going into now. That's, I think everybody knows, that's my take on Cold War. It doesn't mean that Soviets were good guys. There were no good guys. Both sides are bad guys. That's the thesis here. Of course, one of the important texts for this theory, this analysis, is Professor Anthony Sutton's Wall Street and the Bolshevik Revolution. There's other books that are relevant to this as well. And don't forget Mark's excellent essay where he translates the KGB colonel's never before translated journal entries about Victor Rothschild and about Robert Maxwell. All, by the way, over at Espionage History Archive. So remember, here's the article. We always give you the sources for this stuff if you want to read it. There's the Philby article. I forgot the Russian blonde. I think we're supposed to think that she's some kind of honey trap shocker, right? And the Tom Hardy character ends up figuring out the plot, and he has the real deets on who the mole is. She wants to defect to the West, and she ends up getting caught up in the whole, trade drama, and she doesn't make it. Okay, she never is, if I recall, I don't think they ever explain what happens to her. She gets trucked off back to evil Soviet gulags or something like that. And Tom Hardy, of course, had fallen in love with her, the young, more emotional agent who's in the field being handled by Smiley, I think. Isn't Smiley his handler? Anyway, but so he brings back the information that ultimately helps Smiley figure out who the mole is. He puts two and two together. Oh, it has to be Colin Firth, because this would explain why there's the whole adultery issue, which was not really about adultery. It was always about the operation to cloud my mind, because George Smiley was the most likely person to figure this ruse out, and he sees through all of the narratives and the plot drama and the smoke and mirrors, you see, right? Anyway, so, but notice the father figure handler element here. The older generations are the wiser, manipulative father figure element to the younger people who haven't really figured out the ways of the world, right? The people who are the younger in the spy dramas, they're usually caught up in the middle of it. They love somebody. They want to save somebody. They're on the noble quest. The older, more manipulative handlers have a better sense of the world and how it really works. They're not as idealistic, right? And that theme will continue to come up. And as you guys know, I think this is a big part of how society is engineered and subverted and destroyed by how those same archetypes operate and act on a mass level, right? How does mass media portray the man archetype? How does mass media destroy the male archetype? How does mass media subvert the female archetype? So everything occurring on the macro level can be mirrored on the micro level, right? So all these subversive techniques and what's going on between handler and handled, bro, that's the way the government is doing to you. You the government's little bitch. You getting handled. Government pimp. Get over here, hoe. Right? That's the real relationship between the elites, the establishment, and the majority of the, sort of poor, pitiful public, who is oftentimes mistreated and abused by Big Daddy government, Big Daddy state. Right? That's what I'm trying to say. Y'all know what I'm trying to say up in here. Anyway, so there you go. That's the anti-Bond. I don't think I had any more really super deep notes. But other things that we pick up is that this whole domain, right, is very similar to the way that the domain of police and informants works, right? It's very, very similar to that. Intelligence work is basically doing that in another country, in some other place, manipulating unstable people with daddy issues. And that will be huge in most wanted men. Now, again, let's take this parallel between the macro and the micro and think about. So, if the handlers know that an individual has daddy issues, which Philip Seymour Hoffman's character Gunther, he will make continual use of that, and he will reference it constantly throughout the film. Don't you think that people at a higher macro level who do social engineering realize that if they destroy the patriarchal archetype, that the state, the nanny state, Big Brother, can be the replacement archetype for everybody who's a dang illegitimate hoodlum? I'm talking about all of us in society, right? Does that make sense? Exactly. And if you think that's far-fetched, what I'm trying to explain to you is that the people who do the intelligence work, who manipulate the individuals, understand that it also applies to the macro scale. So you are manipulated the exact same way that the handlers manipulate their dupes and their assets and their informants and their operatives even. There you go. So, what do you mean? Conspiracy theory? Just read a few spy novels and you'll understand how everything works. It's all the same patterns and principles. Do you guys see that? And thank God the internet's working. Man. Thank God the internet's working. Man. If you would, please support the show now that we have the internet working via the super chats. And of course, my battery's going to die now that the freaking Ethernet cables are plugged in. There is the super chat link. What's everybody so stingy tonight? Stingy. What are you even saving up for? 4th of July. Oh, can't wait to see some fireworks. I'm going to spend $300 on fireworks. Fireworks are dumb, dude. Give me that damn money. I want you to take right now out of your firework fund, out of the piggy jar for fireworks, and put it over here in the super chats right now, because this is much more interesting than anything that you're going to hear at your dumb fireworks 4th of July thing. What are you going to hear at 4th of July right now? Come on. Let's be honest. What are you going to hear? You see that game? Did you see them Tennessee Vols the other day? Did you see the Titans the other day? That one guy, he took the ball through like this, and then the other guy grabbed the ball and it went in the thing, man. Oh, did you see the way that it went through the poles and not over the poles and under it? Wow, that was crazy. I've only seen him kick the ball through the poles 4,332 times. And then he goes and he kicks the ball through the pole 4,500 times. That's everything. That's all y'all gonna be talking about 4th of July. Nobody's gonna be talking about this. So give me super chats. That's what I'm trying to say, right? That's what I'm trying to say. Humdinger. I can't believe the way the football went through the poles again. This time it was really beautiful though. It was like, and it went through the 2 poles, man. Can you believe that somebody could kick the ball through the poles and the other men just crashing into each other? Good old Rocky Top, Monkeypox, Tennessee. And literally that produced no super chat. You gotta up your game, dude. There is the Streamlabs link for the super chats right there. Somebody could clip that and put that up as like the worst attempt ever to beg the pay piggies for super chats. It'll be, watch him in 5 years, it'll be exposed. Dyer exposed. Observe the way he irresponsibly and with no shame begs his pay piggies to pay him while he attacks the American heritage of 4th of July. Everybody's poor. You ain't that poor because you got a dang computer and the internet right now. I'm just joking. Oh, dude, I'm poor right now. But I got a $300 firework fund. I gotta blow my little kid's digits off with them M80s, dog. I can't pay you right now. Fireworks, dude. Come on now. I gotta go start a fire. I gotta start a national forest fire right now. I got a bunch of bottle rockets and gotta buy about $100 worth of Roman candles right now. There we go. Thank you so much, young webmaster, for that $5 super chat. Now I can proceed. I can move on. All right, so we got through that stodgy British drama that was the hardest one to do. Let's move on to Operation Mincemeat, boy. Gonna make you mincemeat. Mincemeat sounds like some nasty fake British meat. And by the way, at the beginning of this movie, they lay out Spam. So I'm thinking, do the British people think Spam is mincemeat? And why were they eating Spam? And then I realized, oh, they're rationing the food. By the way, did you know the rationing the food during wartime, that's all also social engineering? And I make the fireworks jokes because everybody knows about Tennessee, right? Tennessee is so fireworks obsessed that stand-up comedians, all the Southern stand-up comedians, by the way, most of whom suck, by the way. Southern comedians. Have you ever watched Southern stand-up comedians? Oh, dude, they're awful. Sometimes there's like one funny joke out of like an hour, okay? And that one dude that my mom met that day one time, forget his name. He had one funny joke about fireworks. Oh, who was that guy's name? Southern stand-up. Y'all ever been to Tennessee? I could do his joke. Y'all ever been driving through Tennessee? Everywhere you drive, firework, firework. Get off interstate, firework. Go to Walmart, firework. The whole damn state's about to burn up, firework. Right, that was his whole thing. He's right, though. All of Tennessee is fireworks. I mean, it's crazy, dude, right? Like, this whole state, just like everywhere you go, there'll be fireworks stands set up everywhere. I mean, you go to the dentist, there's going to be fireworks set up there. You can buy some fireworks. Crackheads, stop selling crack. Hey, dude, you want some fireworks? Where's the bottle rockets right here, dude? Literally everybody just goes nuts with fireworks in Tennessee. I don't even know why. It doesn't make sense. They're not even that fun. It's like 2 minutes of fun to shoot a bottle rocket out of a bottle. And half of them don't even work because they're such cheap Chinese fireworks, right? What would Eddie Bravo say? Dude, you know what, the fireworks? That's a Chinese conspiracy right now, dude. China has been trying to buy up Tennessee to fireworks, bro. That's what Eddie Bravo would say. But so anyway, everybody goes nuts worshiping fireworks. It's like a ritual with fireworks in Tennessee. And again, I mean, yeah, okay, fireworks are kind of fun for a minute, but I mean, you light the thing and it pops. I mean, right? Or you could light it and throw it at your friends and blow their hands off, right? It's just weird, but people go nuts over fireworks. And everywhere in Tennessee, they do giant firework events. So every city, Nashville has like this gigantic fireworks event that goes on. It's just, I don't know. It's a weird thing, man. It's one of the lesser deities of the Tennessee pantheon. Okay, football, that's like top god. Football is also the second god. There's like an evil trinity, demon trinity of football demon in Tennessee. And then like the lesser demons are fireworks. I don't know. But that's Tennessee, boy. But also, I'm going to do that Tennessee stream because multiple friends have reached out in the last week. Yo, I'm about to move to Tennessee, dude. Should I do it? Should I do it? Should I do it? Should I move to Tennessee? Tennessee. Making me think of Arrested Development right now. Remember that song? Take me to another place. Well, it depends whether you should move to Tennessee. But anyway, I don't know how fireworks have anything to do with spy novels. Oh, I remember it. It's because everybody will spend, people spend $300-$400 on stupid fireworks. And where's my super chats, right? Because this is way more interesting than any conversation that any of your boring family members are going to have on 4th of July, which is coming up soon. So I'm telling you to steal out of your dang parents' fireworks fund. That's what I'm trying to say. That's where them super. Where's more? I'm broke, dude. I'm broke. Yeah, but you got a $500 stash under your bed of Roman candles. You need to sell them, boy, and support this show. This show. By the way, it's hot. You're going to start a fire with them fireworks. You want to burn all the tree? What did Smokey tell you a long time ago? He said something like, just don't start fires. Some shit like that, right? Remember him? All right, let's get to the fun one. Confessions of a Dangerous... No, we're going to do Operation Mincemeat. So basically, this one is interesting because... and I don't know how long this was doubted, but... I remember when I was doing the research for my thesis, the Bond stuff, I remember reading that people would talk about, Ian Fleming was involved in high-level intelligence, and people thought, oh, it's a crazy conspiracy. Oh, you mean the fiction writer? As usually happens, right? Oh, turns out all of that's completely true. Turns out many of the Bond stories are based on partial Ian Fleming operations. And Operation Mincemeat is obviously one of the more James Bondy types of events that really happen. And to make a long story short, this is a high-level deception that was very risky, where they found a dang tramp, Glendwer Michael, and they put an elaborate legend into his persona and washed him up on a beach, and they put fake plans of where there would be the British invasion, Allied invasion, in his breast pocket. And this is pretty elaborate. Now, this is really relevant for our purposes because, number one, we begin to see, wait a minute. Oh, well, this kind of looks like a big-scale conspiracy. Well, I thought there weren't conspiracies. But there is espionage, right? Okay, so there's espionage, which is conspiring at a high level to do conspiracy things. But there's no such thing as conspiracies. You see how stupid this is? And by the way, anybody who knows a little bit about this domain, which I did my thesis on, can in 2 seconds refute anybody who's a skeptic about conspiracies. Right? You just pull that out. Oh, really? So you don't believe in espionage? I mean, what? There's no conspiracies. Are you saying then that there's no such thing as Allied acts of deception in World War II? I mean, what does that even mean? There's no such thing as conspiracy. This is just complete mindless, just mealworm-brained people, right? Maggot brain. How could you even posit something so dumb? Now, this, again, debated for a long time. Oh, there was a real thing. But now it turns out, actually, Ian Fleming was involved in this. And that comes out in Ben McIntyre's books. Of course, he's like one of the main dudes that writes about this. I think the movie is based on his book. I'm not positive, but I think so. And you'll notice even here in the public domain, most normie analysis, it says, successful British deception to disguise the 1943 invasion of Sicily with two members of British intelligence grabbing a dang tramp body out of the water who ate rat poison, dressed him up as a Royal Marine, and had created an elaborate legend. That's what they don't tell you here. And the Germans fell for it, apparently. Part of the wider Operation Barclay. Mincemeat was based on the 1939 Trout Memo, written by Rear Admiral John Godfrey, the then director of Naval Intelligence, and his personal assistant. You might have heard of him, Ian Fleming, who would later become also high-level British intelligence and PSYOPs director for the Navy. So I think it might have even been that Naval Intelligence Division. I think that's what he eventually had. And they, of course, had to get the approval of Churchill. One thing I did like about the movie was the discussion that they have with Churchill to convince him to do this kind of kooky plot. And they're sitting there, and the guy who's against it is like, oh, he'll never buy this. And so they explain it to him. And I don't even know if this is true. This is probably Hollywooded up. But Churchill's like, And he sits there and he's like, it's so crazy that the Germans won't think that we would come up with something that's kooky, so they'll buy it. I thought that was pretty cool, right? But what does that show us? Oh, well, turns out British intelligence goes pretty deep into staging things. Pretty elaborate. So maybe this might have reference to other events. Now, it's amazing to me that normies, like, they hear this kind of stuff, and then their sort of default response is, oh, that happened that one time. So it happened here, but it wouldn't happen again, right? And these are the same people, by the way, that, as we'll see in relation to Most Wanted Man, I mean, the yellow cake, weapons of mass destruction, that's all lies. There's consistent long trains of lies, but normies will still accept mainstream narratives, even though there's a constant gaslight track record of the establishment lying constantly at all levels. And I think that's what causes so much of the black pill apathy, is that, dude, these people are never going to get it. I mean, like, imagine a con man who, like, knocked on your door every day and you bought his trying to think of something that was like what's a typical door-to-door con man gonna do? Hey dude, I got some beans, bro. These are gold beans. So you plant these beans, dude, they will pop up into a gold corn. You're gonna be eating gold. Imagine buying gold corn beans, planting them, nothing grows, and then the next day the dude comes. The next week he comes back. Hey, you didn't plant them right. And then he sells you more. So imagine you keep buying into this. Like, at a certain point, it's gonna be like there's no hope for that dude, right? But you just keep doubling down, and he shifts the story every time, right? Like, oh, well, see, the reason that the gold corn didn't grow them days was because that's the odd days of the week. You got to only plant it on the even days, right? And then you plant them on the even days, and they don't grow. And he comes like, that's because you got to plant them after 5 p.m. You can't plant them in the morning. Them is night beans. Working on them night beans. And then it happens again. That's because you got to play Bob Seger, right? You got to be playing Bob Seger at midnight when you plant them night beans, and you got to plant them in the backyard, not the front yard. It won't work, right? Working on the night move, on the road again. That's an ultimate boomer tune, isn't it? Robert Seger and the Robert Seger backup band, or whatever it's called. That's straight up boomer fire right there, dude. Bob Seger. Anyway, how do we get onto Bob Seger from freaking Confessions of a Dangerous Mind? This is crazy. Here I go up on the stage. I can't remember what he sounds like. I had to hear some. I feel like I should be doing some Seeger voiceovers, but I can't remember how he talks. He looks just like all the Alabama dudes too. Doesn't Bob Seger look like he would be like he got booted out of Alabama or something? I'm trying to remember how he sounds because I think I can do a Bob Seger okay, but I don't remember what he sounds like. There's some people in the audience are mad right now. That's wholesome Americana. How dare you? I don't even remember what he sounds like though. He's got some kind of gravelly boomer voice though, right? Woke last night to the sound of thunder. Oh. 1962. I do a better Michael McDonald than I do Boomer Seeger. You gotta have a dang butt cut. That dude never got rid of a butt cut. And you know that's a bold boomer right there who never loses the butt cut. I mean, I can think of Bob Seger, everybody in Alabama, the band, they never got rid of the butt cut. Anyway, I would do better. It'd be better off if I did Michael McDonald for you guys then, because he's also Essence of Boomer too, right? More so, perhaps even than Bob Seger, because I mean, you got a double tap pop, pop, from Michael McDonald. I mean, you got Doobie Brothers and Michael McDonald, right? Nothing to do with British intelligence. Unless Bob Seger and Michael McDonald were secret British intelligence spies. I can't forget why you love anymore. I can't forget. Never be the same again. I can't forget. Anyway. Right now, how many boomers are in the chat complaining? How many boomers are in the chat? I gotta plug this freaking thing in, so it probably will skip. So be prepared. You want to lodge a complaint? Send your strongly worded emails to Spectrum. I can't forget how you love it anymore. Never be the same again. Tell me that's Michael McDonald, right? I mean, y'all recognize. You better recognize. That's Michael McDonald. That's a drive-through I would go to, right? I would drive up to Michael McDonald's. I'm not going to no McDonald's, but I am driving up to Michael McDonald's, and I will never forget. Okay, forget. Give me Chewbacca knuckles. 6-pack of those knuckles now. I need... Chewbacca knuckles, that's an old high school joke. You don't know what that is. Instead of 6-pack of chicken nuggets, you order a 6-pack of Chewbacca knuckles. And so if I'm not going to McDonald's, I'm going to Michael McDonald's, and I'm pulling up to the drive-thru, and I'm going to sing it like Michael McDonald. And I'm going to say, I need Chewbacca knuckles right now. I need them. Chewbacca knuckles, get it? At the Michael McDonald's drive-thru. What's his other song? Maybe I can fit chicken nuggets or Chewbacca knuckles into that better. We don't want the, I keep forgetting Sweet Freedom. What a fool believes. Oh yeah, What a Fool Believes. How could I forget that? Is that a good song for ordering Chewbacca knuckles or chicken nuggets? Believes. I don't know the lyrics. I mean, I like Michael McDonald, but I'm not like a I'm not a boomer. I'm not a super fan, but I'll listen to the Doobie Brothers. They're fun. But Michael McDonald has a weird voice. It's basically all falsetto, isn't it? Like the whole thing is falsetto. He came from somewhere back in her long ago. Yeah, that's it. Can we turn this into chicken nuggets? I should do one of my songs like this. Michael McDonald chicken nuggets order. Anyway, I don't know. I'm lost here. Doobie Brother, no, I don't know. Confessions of a Dangerous Smile. Let's get back to this. This is getting crazy. We're too out there. We're too out there, dude. Chuck Barris. Now, this is an interesting one because it's kind of embarrassing, actually, that I haven't already done this. Because it's like, wait a minute, you didn't cover the most obvious CIA Hollywood connection out there? Well, no, I am very familiar with the movie. Watched it long ago. But this one is difficult because it is plausible. Not the whole movie, right? This movie gets kind of goofy and ridiculous, which is actually more of a comedy. Going back and watching this again, I hadn't watched it in probably 10 years. I didn't remember it being it's very comedic. It's almost literally straight up comedy. And so some people might read that as, oh, well then see, it's preposterous that he would have worked for the CIA. It's a comedy movie. The whole idea is comedic, right? That you could have that reading of it. However, Clooney said, because I found one of those old Hollywood Reporter, Radar Online, Hollywood websites I was reading today. I think I can pull it up here. He said, oh no, I think it's real. Now that's relevant because, well, your boy old George there, he has some interesting connections, doesn't he? We've talked about that many times. I think he probably works for some agencies. In fact, we don't even have to speculate about that one because he's openly a member of the CFR and gives speeches at the CFR. There's your boy George giving talks at the CFR. He is listed, of course, as a key lifetime member for the Council on Foreign Relations. So perhaps George Clooney being at that level and working in those circles, perhaps he would be in a position to know if Chuck Barris actually did work as a hitman for the CIA. Again, speculation, but you can look up the article. George Clooney claims that the Gong Show host was a CIA assassin. And this is actually from a year ago, not from back when the movie was made. George Clooney directed this, by the way, in 2002, I think. So, again, that's an interesting thing because, of course, skeptics will point to the fact that, well, Chuck Barris gave a lecture sometime in the 2000s, I guess, and said, oh, I made all this up, right? So he puts it in his autobiography. The movie gets made. Oh, I made it all up. But then George Clooney says, no, actually, I think it's true. And then they later ask Chuck Barris's wife, did you think it was true? And she says, I won't say either way. Now, when you say I don't see either way after your husband has already said it wasn't true, why wouldn't you just say, no, he's already debunked this, right? So who knows, right? We don't know. Maybe it'll be declassified at some point. I don't know. But anyway, this movie is a comedy. It's like basically just a comedy. Obviously, a lot of the elements in this are kind of made up and exaggerated, so it's not a one-to-one, correspondence to Chuck Barris's life. I've not read Chuck Barris's life, but the movie does include interviews with real-life people who knew him, such as Dick Clark and people that worked on set with him that were hosts of the various shows that he created. If you don't know, of course, Chuck Barris is famously the creator of the dating game, the Newlywed Game. I didn't pull it up, did I? If you've not seen this movie, I do recommend it. So maybe we should play the trailer for this because you should be familiar with this. But I may have to pause it because we don't want to get too much of the sound, because it's always the sound that dings the copyright thing, and that's what we don't want. So we'll look at a few of the scenes. I'll try to plug the Ethernet cables back in. Hopefully we won't have any big problems, because I know it's probably cutting out again. Yeah. All right, so Chuck Barris is played excellently by Sam Rockwell, who plays the Jewish television host very well. I don't know if Sam Rockwell is ethnically Jewish, but he plays the character very well. So overall, the acting, the performance in this is really good. And let's see what... Sam Rockwell, of course, always a really good comedic actor. Very, very funny comedic actor. Most of his films, but I'm curious as to his background. Improv, there we go. So he did a lot of improv. That's probably why he was... but it doesn't say what his background is. Anyway. So he plays Chuck Barris, and he is this sort of wild, sort of traumatized philanderer, just wild and crazy dude, right? And he wants to be famous. His whole thing is to just, what can I do that will get me babes? And he thinks, I need to get into TV. TV is where the babes are. He cooks up all these crazy ideas for TV shows, and eventually they work, right? They start popping, right? Then he's approached by George Clooney, who becomes his handler. Again, it might be relevant that people in movies play roles that perhaps they may have a connection to in real life. We have talked about this for many, many years. This is no exception. He proposes, why don't you come work for a 3-letter agency to support your country? There is the proposal here where he recruits him. He thinks, I'm going to be James Bond. I'm going to be a spy. It's going to be, me going to Eastern Europe, seducing women. It's going to be great. And then he finds out, no, you're actually going to be an assassin. And he says, we have profiled you. So another thing relevant to our show, and by the way, which ties into the serial killers and the profiling of the serial killers, perhaps for contract jobs and being hitmen, is that in this film, the idea is presented that they have already profiled and know everything about Chuck Barris and think that he would be the great fit for this role. And of course, as you know, the show becomes the cover. Again, it's speculation, but the trips that they take the contestants who win the show, or if you win the dating game, we're going to fly you and your date to East Berlin, right, during the Cold War. Right? And this is the cover for, not East Berlin, right? It'd be West Berlin, but it's the cover for then Chuck Barris, who goes with the dates as the chaperone to go do his hit work, right? He does assassinations, right? Now, there is truth to this in the sense that this really goes on. There's a good little book on hitmen and assassins by a guy who wrote for various television shows and productions, who became, I guess, a kind of an expert in the history of hitmen and assassinations. Richard Belfield's book, Hitmen and Assassinations. Aptly titled. So I think that there's probably some truth to this, right? Just my gut feeling about, having studied this kind of a thing. I don't know that, like, every time that they flew to another city, the stupid dates were always cover for assassinations. I mean, I think that's kind of outlandish, but I think there's probably some truth to this. And then they throw in this Julia Roberts character who's like this super duper assassin who then just starts killing everybody. That this all seems, obviously made up, but he gets caught in Berlin, right? He's ratted out by one of his dating contestants. I think that's probably made up. That seems kind of silly, but one interesting element that ties into this story of profiling and assassins and serial killers is that, did you know that famously one of the winning contestants was a famous serial killer? Absolutely. And I will show you the clip. And I find this a little hard to believe that this, I mean, isn't this a little odd that a famous serial killer wins as a contestant on Chuck Barris's show and then presumably would be flown to the date? So here you go. That's Rodney Alcala.
Dating game, because this it may be the creepiest episode ever on the dating game, because this bachelor looking for love back in 1978 is actually a serial killer.
I'm called the Banana, and I look really good.
No one had...
Serial killers are always saying just crazy shit, right? Like, have you ever seen the clips of Ted Bundy when he's defending himself in court? I mean, it's wild, right? It's like, this dude puts on a performance. I mean, it could be like a stand-up routine, right? I mean, serial killers they're buck wild, dude. They be saying crazy stuff. I'm a banana. How does a serial killer spit game? Next time you single guys are out there when you're trying to meet girls, try that serial killer game. Hey, baby, I'm a banana. What? A banana.
Any idea that Rodney Alcala...
That line is so weird it might work, right? I guess it has associations that comes along with it. What would you say to your girl? I'm a banana, baby. I mean, look at that dude. That dude's crazy.
Had already launched his killing spree when he appeared on the popular dating show.
He was a real creepy guy, a real idiot.
Everybody always says this, like a real idiot. He's got a good pickup line, though. I'm a banana. Anyway, so there you go. He does come up, by the way, on Lowellfield's archives, who, as you guys know, we make quite a bit of use of in our serial killer episodes, because we've gone through, I think, almost all the archives. I've done like literally like all of it, I think. Of course, he never comes up because his channel's got too much edgy stuff on it. By the way, if you're wondering why I haven't streamed in a couple days, I went down the JonBenet Ramsey rabbit hole. Dude, if you've never been down that rabbit hole, don't go down it because it will never end. Okay, this is basically like another Big 9 event where we'll never know exactly what went down. But I did get kind of like enthralled in this. I went back, reread Dave's chapter on it and programmed. And then I did like 2 days straight. I'm talking about waking up to going to bed 2 days straight of nothing but JonBenet Ramsey research. Now, that's not that big of a deal because people have been studying it for like 30 years, right? Ever since it happened. So some people are like super into this. I am not super into it. I had to kind of make myself stop. All right, I got to do some other things because this is so crazy. I mean, it's just a never-ending labyrinth. I mean, I was going into old forums of the original archives back from the early 2000s, of the archives of all the relevant events, all the case files and material. And dude, I don't even know where to start. Like, there's one crime dude, I listened to 3 or 4 episodes of his thing. He has 85 episodes of his podcast on the JonBenet Ramsey case. So, I mean, dude, if people are out there with like hundreds of hours of, it's not going to be solved. Okay, not anytime soon. And there's so many theories and so many things that don't add up and don't make sense. I don't even know where to start. But I did realize that going back to Dave's, I kind of think he's on the right track, right? I mean, Dave's 10 pages in Program to Kill, even after 2 days of nonstop JonBenet Ramsey research, Dave's analysis still kind of rings true to me. And I know that now it kind of hinges on the DNA evidence. And, it's not John Ramsey and Patsy. It's the DNA of this other male on the scene. But that doesn't mean that they couldn't have been involved. I'm not saying that is the case. I don't know. But I'm saying that doesn't immediately rule them out because it's somebody else's DNA. I mean, that ransom note. I mean, come on, dude. That ransom note is ridiculous, right? Anybody who... I mean, the most glaring thing with that, which I'm not going to go into this now, but who breaks into a house, does all of this stuff and the murder with a house full of people? There's 4 people in the house, plus the 1 or 2 or 3 accomplices and people. Nobody hears this, and they kill the person, whether intentionally or accidentally, and write a 3-page long-ass ransom note that takes at least 30 minutes. I mean, that is preposterous. Come on. That is ridiculous. So we know that is clearly not what it's presented as. Right? It's obviously not just a ransom note. Now, whether that was Patsy writing it, whether it was John writing it, whether it was something planned out before that somebody else wrote to make it look like they wrote it, I mean, who knows? But obviously that's not true. Okay. And that makes that whole thing that's crazy. Nothing about that thing adds up at all. And after 2 days straight of researching it, still nothing makes sense at all. And then is there a cover-up involved in obstructing this case by the police in Boulder? Yes, that looks like that's going on. Anyway, so I don't know. But it's relevant to what we're talking about now because, oh yeah, actually the movie is telling you that they profile to find psychopathic people with no empathy who might be good killers. So it's very believable that Chuck Barris could have done this. Not proof, but it's possible. And it's also what we see, when we look at other cases. I think Ashman's book, CIA and the Mafia, talks about CIA utilizing the Mafia for contract stuff. So, again, very similar to what we see here. So nothing outlandish about that. This comes up in the Santos Trafficante being utilized by the CIA for attempted operations with Castro. Right? Remember this? So that's pretty well known. I don't think that's really disputed. But that, again, shows that this really happens, right? You get so that the government's not directly involved. They just have an independent contractor who does this stuff, right? So again, very, very possible. It's not outlandish that could happen. The Julia Roberts stuff, obviously that's all totally outlandish. Right? That's crazy. But my allergies drive me crazy. About to sneeze. Oh man, why is it doing this? Get attacked. It's because the allergies, the pollen comes out after 10 p.m. You know that, right? Like the pollens just go nuts after 10 p.m. All right, you get the idea. That's Confessions of a Dangerous Mind. There's an interesting line at the beginning where Sam Rockwell, it starts towards the end of his life where he's kind of going nuts. He's naked in a hotel room. He's just kind of staring at the TV screen, and he's worried that they're all coming to kill him, right? So he knows where the bodies are buried. He thinks that because the Julia Roberts character has basically been offing other assassins, that he's next, right? They're going to take him out because of all that he did. So the movie then flashes back to his childhood, and we see him having early childhood SEXUAL. We don't know if it's abuse, but something went on. This seems to make him a sex addict as he grows up. This is part of his profile. As he moves into doing television work, then he becomes primed, as we said, as the target recruitment for the George Clooney CIA character. There's an interesting sequence where he ends up hanging out at the Playboy Grotto, presumably then hanging out with Hugh Hefner. And that's relevant because, as we know, Hef and his magazine were involved in GROOM types of things. And it also appears that perhaps this was a Jeff Steinbeck Efri type location where things were filmed. Do you understand? I believe that comes up in this article. I think. Now, if it doesn't come up in this article, there are other articles that also talk about, like Miss Magazine and Gloria Steinem, getting CIA money as well. And I'm not positive where I read that, but we have a very very smart audience. Okay, we need a credible source. That's not very credible. That's not credible. Does anybody remember where that... It's come up on Tim's podcast a few times, right? Does anybody remember this? What's the source for Playboy getting CIA money? I don't remember. Anyway, but there is something to that, I think. It might be in Francis Stoner Saunders' book. I'm not sure, but there's a scene, though, where he's at the Playboy Mansion, and that's where we start to see him having these sort of psychotic breaks. So all of his killing is starting to have an effect on him. It's starting to... His psyche's starting to break down. He's starting to go psychotic, right? He's like perhaps even MPDDID. We don't know for sure, but he starts seeing and hearing things that aren't happening, which could suggest that, you know, there was more than just him being trained to kill, but perhaps this training included mind control as well. So was he an MK Ultra trained assassin? Perhaps, right? If there were to be an example of this in the Hollywood scene, it would be this dude. I mean, this is the archetypal version of this conspiracy theory, which clearly seems to have some basis in reality. We know there's trained killers. We know that's part of Phoenix Program, MK Ultra, right? Do we know that Chuck Barris for sure went through this? No, but it's a good candidate for an example of this. He mentions at one point, by the way, at the beginning of the film, he says something like, this is a crazy place. Drew Barrymore was talking to him, she plays his longtime girlfriend. And she's like, oh, this is a dark, crazy place. And he goes, yeah, my psyche. Right. So the movie is a portrayal of his experiences and his psyche gradually deteriorating to the point of kind of what appears to be a psychotic break, but that it could also be just his mind control programming eventually breaking down and going haywire, which we see in quite a few of these people. Another thing that I think contributed to his, or what the movie portrays as a breakdown, was the fact that he didn't take criticism very well, and everybody said, oh, his shows are just degenerate, because the dating shows were all innuendos. But the Gong Show, which actually is a kind of a funny idea, he kind of like paves the way for Saturday Night Live, American Idol, right? These kinds of shows have their origins in the goofy variety kind of show that he does with the Gong Show. And he had this pretty, I would say, ahead of its time idea to find the worst acts. That's kind of genius, right? I mean, like, it's kind of like Mystery Science Theater before its time, right? But for variety acts. Which I'll give him credit, though. Those are pretty genius ideas, actually, to have a show of the worst acts and then ring the gong. Very American Idol, very X Factor, right? Way before that. Jamie? She has a note here I don't understand. So anyway, there you go. Confessions of a Dangerous Mind. Does that tell us that there's a mind control assassin program? Not necessarily, but if the thesis that we have that movies oftentimes tell us more truth. My allergies are going crazy. That's why I'm snorting. If that thesis is correct, then clearly here is one of the best examples. Right? So there we go. We finally did Confession of a Dangerous Man and Mind. And remember too, who directs this? Clooney. Clooney is Counsel on Foreign Relations openly. By the way, did you notice the cameos of Matt Damon, Brad Pitt, and of course there's long-time speculation that these people as well perhaps have served in intelligence capacities, as well as our boy Ben. Do you guys remember the RT article that was written about this? Which we had speculated about for a long time. Way back, right? We were talking about this before Argo came out. And everybody remembers the Jennifer Garner, right? Remember this?
I'm Jennifer Garner. I play a CIA officer on the ABC TV series Alias. In the real world, the CIA serves as our country's first line of defense in the ongoing war against international terrorism. CIA's mission is clear and direct: safeguard America and its people. And it takes smart people with wide-ranging talents and diverse backgrounds to carry out this mission. People with integrity, common sense, patriotism, and courage. The kind of people who have always worked for the agency. But since the tragic events of 9/11, the CIA has an even stronger need for creative, innovative, flexible men and women from diverse backgrounds with a broad range of perspectives. Right now, the CIA has important, exciting jobs for U.S. citizens, especially those with foreign language skills. Today, the collection of foreign intelligence has never been more vital for national security. If you're an American citizen and seek a challenging, rewarding career where you can make a difference in the world and here at home, contact the agency at www.cia.gov.
It's a conspiracy theory. There ain't no connection between Hollywood and the CIA. A conspiracy theory. I mean, has anybody watched Wag the Dog? I mean, there's a whole movie on this, okay? It's amazing to me. Like, everything is open in the public. It's not even conspiracy theory. It's like all just in the public. This is a good article, by the way. But, oh, by the way, if you did want to read, I forgot to mention this. Well, I was going to read you the whole article, but I think I did link it at the very beginning. But I highly recommend, in regard to Tinker, Tailor, Soldier, Spy, Mark's article on Kim Philby. So there's that. We already covered that, so we can X that out. We did that. Did that. Mincemeat. Did that. You guys remember this one? This guy's no longer with us. Wonder why. This is relevant to Most Wanted Man. All right, so I think that's everything so far. Most Wanted Man. What about this other LeCarre story, which he wrote in 2012, so 10 years after the Big Nine event? The Big Nine plays a key role in this movie's narrative. I think we're supposed to see in Philip Seymour Hoffman's character Gunther, or Bachman. I think we're supposed to see a little bit of George Smiley, aka LeCarre, as well in this character, because this story is a very critical take on what LeCarre called Bush's war on terror, right? As if this was all run by mustard gases, right? George W. Bush, right? And mustard gases. No, it's not his war on tea, right? The war on tea was dreamt up a long time ago, during the Cold War. Actually, it comes out of the Cold War. It's the replacement global narrative war for the post-Cold War period. That now it seems to have transitioned into right, the invisible bio threat. Right, that's like they may bring it back. We might have a Huntington level clash of civilizations. I don't know. Nobody knows where we're going. We're gonna have World War III or what, but it was not dreamt up by W and his cronies in the post-9 event world. There was a meeting with Brzezinski, other presidents of other countries in the early 80s. And that's covered by Golden Fitzgerald. That's the real birth of war on Terror. You know what I mean? That's the real birth of it. Not many people know that or talk about that. But Brzezinski was at that meeting with neocons, right? So Brzezinski isn't really anti-neocon. They're all basically on the same team. They just have different game plans. So the reason, though, that this movie is relevant for what we're talking about is not just because of the LeCarre angle, but because there's a key insight twist at the end of the movie. I'm assuming you guys have seen the movie, so I'm not going to spoil it for you, but or I'm going to spoil it for you, excuse me. There's two ways to read this movie. So let's get to what happens, and then we'll figure out which is the more likely narrative for how to read it. So we have mentioned Mohammed Atta a few years after the Big 9 event. His network is responsible for funding Big T events, right? This takes place in Germany, and we have a refugee character who has made his way from Russia to Turkey to Germany. And we don't know if this refugee is legitimately freeing persecution as an international rights refugee guy, or if he's actually infiltrating the country to do some sort of BOMB event. Now, I'm kind of reviewing this movie. I'm kind of surprised this movie got made, because this movie doesn't really fit what was quickly becoming not PC to make, right? Because within a few years, this movie came out in 2014. Within a few years, you can't talk about any of this stuff, right? As we get up towards 2016, the clampdown happens. There's no way this movie would be made now. And right before and right after the Big 9 event, Hollywood would still make movies where you have the ARABTERROR villain. But after about 2015, you can't do that kind of movie. You're not going to have that. It's just, there's no way this movie would be made now. And it's not even that old. But what I'm saying is that's how quickly things have changed, right? From 2014 to now. And this is not ironically, it's not one of those neocon propaganda movies, because there's so many of those. We've covered many of those, right? Even all the way back to True Lies. True Lies is a neocon propaganda film, 100%. And somehow this one slipped through the cracks. It wasn't a big blockbuster, obviously. It's too serious and too much of a political spy drama to be a blockbuster, but it's a pretty good movie. It's a good story. It has this interesting twist that does require some interpretation. So our character who has fled is a Chechen. He makes his way to Germany, and we find out that he's connected to and has fled from Al-Q network. Okay, Mohammed Atta network. So we're supposed to connect this to the Big 9. He has information that will allow him to contact a bigwig at a German bank, and the character is played by Willem Dafoe. The bank, of course, we find out is a bank that works with organized crime and international TERROR networks. At the same time as this is going on, German intelligence and German forces and their allies are interested in another character whom they're watching, generically called Abdullah, who is a wealthy philanthropist NGO guy. And his whole thing is to sell Islam as progressive and not a problem, no threat to the West at all. And he donates money through his charities. But we are suspicious that, okay, he perhaps is using this as a cutout to send money through the charities to Al-Q. Okay? And he's just a made-up character. He's called Faisal Abdullah. We have the Rachel McAdams character, who is the wealthy, liberal, social justice lawyer girl from a rich family. Robin Wright is the American observing consultant. She's clearly the CIA. So the CIA is involved. They're there. She's constantly talking to the Philip Seymour Hoffman character, who is a disgraced German intelligence agent. And we don't know why he's disgraced. He just had some scandal and something fell apart when he was running agents in Beirut. And so he's been demoted to working these potential TERROR networks in Hamburg. And he hates the city of Hamburg. He is a grizzled, he's in the vein of like a grizzled detective, like a Sam Spade, who's, basically done with life because bureaucratic foibles have ruined his career. But he's really good at what he does. In fact, we start to suspect that maybe he's too good, and perhaps he's stumbling on what's really going on, and perhaps he is being foiled by higher players. Now, his whole idea is we don't need to immediately arrest these people. All right, when we see this guy sneaking in, what we need to do is watch him, see what he does, and get the bigger fish. It seems logical, right? And if you were out to catch the bad guys, isn't that what you would want to do? But he's immediately sort of foisted, or this plan is thwarted by the CIA and other people in the German government who don't want that to happen. They want to make immediate arrests. They want to put an end to this, supposedly, and they want to have a name to say, oh, we've caught the bad guys. And give people, right, the assurance that, oh, we got the bad guys. And I think what's going on, right, is that Philip Seymour Hoffman's character realizes that this is actually not to get the bad guys, you see. And it reminds me of remember my first two interviews, right? I did 2 interviews with a couple pretty important people. We did Annie Michon early on. What was Annie Michon's thesis when her and her partner had credible intelligence on Osama B and other characters? They were told to not do anything. And so Annie Michon's story is that, well, we had to leave Britain because it just makes no sense that they tell us not to do anything, because don't you want the bad guys? Well, it seems like they don't want the bad guys. And then we have a similar story. The real bad guys, right? They like to bust low-level nobodies, but they don't seem to want the people who are funding these things. Where's the money coming from? Right? What were we talking about the other day with revolutionary movements? When we covered BILDERBERG. Shouldn't we be asking where the money comes from? I mean, that seems pretty important, right? Where's the money coming from? But most people just never ask this question. It's as if communist revolutionaries, socialist revolutionaries, like they just magically have money and power, right? Well, maybe we should look at where they get money. Likewise with these kinds of networks. Maybe we should look at where they get money. and I think everybody here kind of knows, right? We have a good idea as to where Mohammed Atta and his networks come from and where they got their money. I think we all know that here. This movie, in a clever, subtle way, basically makes this point. Now, it doesn't explicitly say necessarily that it was the CIA who was behind this fictional money laundering banking character, but I think that's what we are to conclude, because as you know, what happens is that everything coalesces precisely according to Philip Seymour Hoffman's plan. He's about to nab not a low-level nobody, but the actual funding and network, including Islamic banking and cutouts. This shipping company, there's a cutout, Seven Friends. It's a cutout in the story. And then, lo and behold, Suburbans show up, wreck his car, grab the suspects, and speed off. And then he looks across the street, and he sees Robin Wright, the CIA character, kind of look over at him in a cold death stare and drive off. And so he now has lost everything. His whole career is ruined. Everything's gone. Why? I think not because they wanted to get the bad guy, but they were protecting their guy, right? If Philip Seymour Hoffman had the Abdullah character and then had access to the whole network, the whole thing could be busted. The whole ruse would be busted. Now, if that network was not just run by Saudi billionaires, right? If there was a Western intelligence connection and backing, you can't let that happen. So that's how I read this plot. In the LeCarre novel, it ends with the CIA character saying, "This is another case of good old American justice," something stupid like that, right? And of course, the critics all say, "Oh, this novel was a critique of the Bush era policies." Okay, well, so yeah, I believe that, but the movie doesn't have that. It has them nabbing the network, presumably to save their man. And we also learned that it was the CIA who had caused Philip Seymour Hoffman to get demoted. They had actually ruined they had leaked his network, messed up his spy network in Beirut. So they're actually the cause of him getting demoted. Then they show up in Germany and foil his huge operation, which would have foiled the whole War on Tea event. That's how I read this. Maybe I'm overly conspiratorially reading it. Did you guys read it that way? Do you think it comes off like that? And what I did appreciate about this movie is that it's not the most exciting, gripping movie, but it's very realistic in regard to how this stuff, I think, actually works. The one thing that's not very realistic is that I think Philip Seymour Hoffman's character as a German intelligence agent would know very well that the CIA is very heavy in Germany. So, I mean, that's in the movie, but it's like, wouldn't he have known that they would be in on this? And so they basically watched and let him do all the work. And then at the very last moment, they took over the guys that he had busted, presumably to keep it on the down low and squash the whole thing. So then he ends up basically as a complete failure. He will never have this job again, right? His whole operation's busted. And it was all, he was being used, thus the art of betrayal. And one thing that's interesting that came up throughout the whole film was father relations. This is mentioned, again, in almost every key character interaction. So we see Philip Seymour Hoffman running agents as a father figure. And he knows enough to pick people that have daddy issues, and he can step in and be a surrogate father. And that's typically how he manipulates most of the people. He even pulls this off with Rachel McAdams' character, who is the social justice warrior, who he says, you're a liberal because you want to say F your daddy, right? The only reason she's a liberal social justice lawyer working with NGOs for refugees, he says, is because you're mad about something between you and your dad. And he's able to convince Rachel McAdams to be on his side. He's even able to convince the corrupt money laundering banker Willem Dafoe to work with him in this operation. He doesn't use daddy issues, but he just pulls the straight up, like, we'll just audit your bank, which we know you work with organized crime. So, very skilled as a handler. And he's not a villain. He's actually trying to fight this war on tea, right? But he gets too close. He starts to figure out how this really works. Who's really running these networks of crazed TERR people? And so he has to be basically ruined. And that's why I think this is a very important movie. I mean, did anybody else think that when they watched this or catch this? And what did we see come out? Remember this forgotten clip? Udo Ulfkotte. Remember when he went public and said that European media basically just echoes whatever this group wants? Remember this? Remember him? And by the way, do you remember that he's not around anymore? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so there's that. And by the way, there's a little bonus scene where they go into Sprockets Club. It's literally every dance club in Germany just Sprockets. That's the only music they have there is Dieter and Sprockets. I'm not joking. It's like that's all there is. You think it's a stereotype, but like you go to Germany. I mean, I'm saying in movies it's that way, right? So let's get to the super chats. I'm getting kind of tired. Frankie D for $5. Jay, have you seen info on operations recruiting videos? Do you mean the one I just played? How would someone who's a member of an organization such as the CIA be an Orthodox Christian and do confessions? I mean, you're asking how? You mean how they do it in good conscience? Or, I mean, thousands and thousands of people work for the government and for the military and in all kinds of different positions. So, I mean, very few people are hit squads or doing wet works. Okay, so that's not many people doing this kind of stuff. I think most people think that they're being patriotic and serving their country and all that kind of stuff. So that's what most people think. Should you not be a part of these kinds of organizations? I mean, I can't tell you what to do in your life when it comes to your life decisions. I would not be a part of government agencies and organizations that do these kinds of things. I wouldn't want to be. For one, I like to be my own boss. I don't want to have a handler. I don't want to have a government agent telling me what I can and can't do. That sounds like a nightmare. Who would want to live that lifestyle? But I mean, some people love structure. They love, a military style structure in their life. I mean, that's why people are driven to the military. I would not be part of the military, but I can't tell you what to do. I'm not your spiritual father, right? So military life, patriotism, even intelligence work is not inherently wrong or bad. But if your government becomes very corrupt, those are not wise professions. That's my view. So it's not that the professions themselves are evil. It's that if your government, your country becomes like so just crazy level corrupt, right? Why would you want to work for that? To me, that seems like a dumb idea. Young Webmaster, $5. Thank you so much. Rachel Wilson, $5. I will never not hear good old monkeypox, Tennessee. I will forever hear that now. Well, hey, sorry, I can't control where the improv takes us, right? Sometimes the improv takes us to dark corners of the psyche, like Chuck Barris says. And if I ruin... By the way, that song's dumb anyway. Who cares if that song's ruined? That's a dumb song. I don't want my state song to be some stupid redneck anthem about corn whiskey and bearcat women. I mean, it just makes Tennessee look ridiculous. Like firework worship. Like we're a bunch of dang redneck Zoroastrians. We worship at the altar of fireworks. At least Zoroastrians worship fire, right? Not fireworks. Keef Pay Piggies, $5. My 87th AR, or do you mean a firework? 87th AR. I don't know if you mean guns or fireworks. We'll have to wait now. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I want everybody to take money out of the firework fund and send super chats. And thank you, Keith Pay Piggy, for doing that. $8 gas. That's a good title. $5. You need to give me $8 so I can at least get a gallon of gas, dude. Can you do a Ben Shapiro? Basically, I can talk really fast and do like that sort of factional logic. I did that kind of a thing, but that's not very good. So I'd have to work on and tweak it. And I haven't listened to enough Ben Shapiro to do a really solid version of it. Sorry for that. Shelf, $5. Thank you for the laughs. Well, I was a little tired today. We did a really long walk. And it was like super hot today. So I got sunburnt. And then so I watched like 3 movies today, did a super long walk, got sunburnt, and then came in here to do this. I was like having a hard time staying awake, dude. So I apologize that my mind has not been the most crisp tonight as it should have been. Shell, $5. Thank you for the laughs. I already read that. See, I don't even know what I'm doing. Spooner Goblin, 213, $5. Thank you so much. Hurdying Wish, $10. What is your take on the morals of spy types? Do you mean in real life, or do you mean like the characters in the novels? I assume you mean the morality questions of people who work in that profession. Again, it would be like it's a lot of dark stuff, right? But it's human betrayal. There's a famous book called Art of Betrayal, Gordon Carrera, right? So, I mean, it's pretty nasty people. I wouldn't want to be involved in that life or that work. Do you want to be involved in a bunch of like blackmailing people and deceiving people, manipulating? I mean, it draws very nasty, narcissistic people to that work, and then they end up getting screwed over because they're working with a bunch of other psychopathic screw over people. So I think that it's a profession that draws amoral and immoral people. Not always. Again, you can't speak in total universality in these areas, because you have, I mean, the Byzantine Empire, I mean, it had all kinds of intelligence apparatuses, and it had spies, and it had intrigue, and the Bible has famous spies, Caleb, right? So again, you can't make it into this black and white thing, but yeah, I would say that it's like warfare. Is killing always bad in warfare? No, there's times when people are forced to do these things. And there's, penances for this when you go to confession in the church and you don't commune for a while, et cetera, according to canon law. And so clearly those are not the kinds of professions that you want, right? I mean, if we are forced to self-defense, that's one thing, but I mean, I just think that this kind of stuff attracts just nasty people, just mean people. If these people are trained to lie, steal, and do everything else, they're against morality. When they're home, I bet their personal lives are similar. Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine if you're trained to it's basically legal criminal activity is what this is, right? So do you think that these people are going to have very solid, stable personal lives? No. Exactly. So sort of like you get yourself into these messes. I mean, one of the good elements of Confessions of a Dangerous Mind is that, Chuck Barris, whether it's real or fictional, I mean, he's losing his mind doing this stuff. He's going nuts, right? So that's what you get with this kind of stuff. So going nuts doesn't sound fun to me. All right, so I don't want to do that. Frankie D, $5. I'm sending these stacks. Stacks of dollars. Okay, that's $5 of love points. Jay, there's a guy that I read. I will not mention him, but he pops up. But he gets his site banned. He is saying all these plans were set in motion before China became based. I'm not sure what you mean by China being based. I mean, there's news stories that come out sometimes about them not being fully pro rainbow Skittles, but I don't know what you mean about China being based. Is it possible that their plans are unraveling? I mean, I assume you mean the elite's plans. Again, I don't know. Have no idea what website you're talking about, but it sounds like a QAnon type of thing, which I'm not into any of that. I've always said that's so stupid. Rachel Wilson, $5. Will you please do please do the honey butter Coca-Cola? I was down at Walmart's today, and I was riding on a scooter, and I couldn't believe it. I couldn't even get in that front door. They wouldn't open them doors up. Them mobile automatic doors, they wouldn't open them up. I couldn't get through there. And my scooter, y'all, the tire on my scooter went flat. And I just cried, just sat there and cried. Because I couldn't get my Coca-Cola and I needed a honey bun so bad. I had to look in my dang back pocket. I had in my butt pocket a honey bun and it got flattened. It got Tailor squished and I had to get it out there. And I was just sitting out in that sun. It was just awful. How's that? I didn't even realize that I was doing that Betty Butter. Remember Betty Butterworth or Betty Butterfield? Remember that character? Yes. Do you remember this guy? I promise I wasn't ripping off when I did that live stream where I was acting like that. I think so. A lot of times what happens is that if you're doing improv-y stuff, like you'll just start doing something and you don't even realize that you're probably hearkening back to a stupid thing that you saw like 14 years ago. Do y'all remember Betty Butterfield? Let's play this one. This one's great. It's a classic.
I just got back a few minutes ago from the Pentecostal service. 2-3 times a year the Lord calls me to go to them things. Sometimes they're in a tent, but this one was in a peanut brittle palace. I love going to that holy UPC Pentecostal madness. I love it. I love every minute of it. It's slain in the spirit and carry on, and good singing, good praying, good praising, and good hollering. I love Pentecostal women. I love the way they dress. Everything is just simple, right out of a singer catalog. They make their own clothes, and whatever's left over, they make pillowcases. Them Pentecostal men is hot. Oh Lord, you know what they say, pray all day and all night. Oh, and honey, I can keep up with the best of them Pentecostal gals when it comes to that hollering in tongues. I learned to do that years ago, looking at Robert.
I think I was unconsciously channeling Betty Butterfield when I was doing. Okay, I can't get my dang scooter. But this is also there's millions of this person in the South, so it's also not just a caricature. Like you will see this person all over the South. I mean, this is like 50% of the Bible Belt is this woman, this caricature. Okay, does that make sense? This is just an old internet, like YouTube character that this guy does. It's just a comedic character where he just talks like anybody from Tennessee in the South knows this person, right? That's why it's funny to people.
Elton.
I mean, this is back in like the E-Bombs World days, right? Like we were laughing at this back when we'd be clicking over to E-Bombs World.
My favorite part of a Pentecostal church, besides the rock and roll, is when they have concerns and prayers and gratitudes and things, spoken and unspoken. You get to raise your hand up, and they said, does anybody have any spoken prayers? And I got them yelled out, I need a husband. Well, even the organist didn't know what to do.
There's a really funny one about Walmart. Yeah. Now, everybody in the South, for whatever reason, like the rednecky people, nobody knows why. They call it Walmarts. I don't know why, but they really do. I mean, it's really common. It's really weird. But yes, very, very country women, they call it Walmarts. Y'all go up there to Walmarts.
I'm old enough to remember the encyclopedia about Russia. Supposedly 30, 40 years ago in Moscow, they had one store named Gum. Supposedly had everything you wanted right in that one store, and we all thought that was so progressive. Now we have the same damn thing, and it's called Walmart. Why don't they carry plus sizes? I had a little episode out at Walmart earlier. I'd rather do anything in the world than go to Walmart Supercenter. Lord, I get a headache just thinking about it. First of all, you have to park half a mile away. And by the time you get in there, your makeup's all running. And their air conditioners ain't no good. Then you got like crowds and crowds of just low-class people.
This is what, I mean, this is really what Walmart, have you ever been to Walmart? Did people know what this is like?
Low-class people at Walmart.
Remember peopleofwalmart.com? I mean, that's what Walmart is like.
But you won't. No telling who you'll pass in the car on the way there. Oh, I passed a carload of them on the highway today. Lord, you should have seen them. I must have had 12 of them in the back.
Low-class people.
They was going about 30 miles an hour, and I come up trying to pass. I had that teal green Honda in overdrive, honey, and I was honking the horn at this lady and telling her, move over, let me get in there. She wouldn't do it. She wouldn't move. I don't know what got into me, but I just floored it and bashed in the back of their car. Hello.
Well, there's Betty Butterfield for you. So that's a classic, internet classic. All right, where was we at? Kristen says for $10, lay off fireworks. No, lay off of my fireworks addiction, Jay. No, I will not. Fireworks are overrated and dumb. Also, they will blow off tiny kid digits. M80s are dumb. Don't do that. Imagine if all of the people shooting off dumb fireworks gave their firework fund as a super chat. We could go to the next level. You see what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. Eric, $25. Woo! Thank you so much. But he says nothing. Likewise, Bob Awesome sends $25 and says nothing. Well, thank you so much, Eric and Bob. You guys are awesome, even though you said nothing. That's okay. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to. Because that's 25 low points. Rocky Shepherd. Rocky Shepherd. $10. You and unshadow ban me. I can't shadow ban you, bro. I don't have that power. I am Rocky Shepherd on YouTube. Oh, number one, I can't shadow ban you, but do you mean that I have banned you? And then you say, again, for $5, remove me from the ban list. I don't know if you mean Discord. I guess you mean YouTube. Okay, but I can't shadow ban you. Rocky. I'll look at that later, dude, but thank you for the super chat. I have to try to remember why I banned you, but Rock E. Shepherd on YouTube. Okay, I'll look that up, dude. Craig Schaefer, $3. My name is Craig Schaefer, and it is translated from Scandinavian to English, Rock E. Shepherd. Okay. So I guess you're the guy that just asked to be unbanned. I will look into it, but thank you for that. Raina, $5. Pay Piggy, ooh, for some Kleenex and antihistamines. Here's a Pay Piggy for some Kleenex and antihistamines. I take the organic allergy pills every day, but I have to stagger it because if you take all the time, they won't do anything. So, but I did have my second little organic allergy pill today, and they work a little bit, but I'm not taking any. I hate everything pharmaceutical, always have, never will take any pharmaceuticals. The Tennessee pollen is serious. Yes, Raina is right. I think you live, well, I won't say where you live, but if I remember, you are in a big city in the South, so you would know. Raina again for $1. Ginger is a natural antihistamine. Cool beans, we'll remember that. I take some ginger, but I don't take a lot of ginger. I have over the years, but thank you. Jethro, $5. JD, you never call out Big Honey Bun. Everyone knows that they're behind the plots. You're a shill. Exactly. Honey Bun Industrial Complex, as I talked about, is probably after me. And yes, they're behind it all. Voluntary Planet, $5. If stealing 100% of the product of someone's labor is slavery, at what percentage is it not slavery? I guess this is a critique of anything that's not libertarianism. Well, the fact that I would believe that there should be something like a centralized monarch doesn't necessitate that I think that there should be gigantic taxes in an ideal system. So I think Hoppe argues that monarchies have actually had lower taxes than so-called free market democracies. So that would be my answer to that. There's no silver bullet to this, because if you have a supposedly completely voluntarist society, you're also going to have the ability of centralized monopoly entities to rape, steal, pillage, and loot the population through centralized monopoly. So whether you call it free market libertarianism or anarcho-capitalism, and everything centralized under monopolies, because I think that libertarianism necessarily moves in the direction of monopoly. And you can tell me all day long, but that's not true libertarianism. It doesn't matter, because the corporate guy who buys up and owns everything, Vanguard, BlackRock, they don't care about your non-aggression principle. And by the way, aggression is not only physical. There's economic, psychological, cultural aggression that can be had through psychological warfare, through toxic culture. And none of the libertarian anarcho people even are smart enough to figure that out. Remember in the debate with Adam Kokesh, and I said, don't you think that very wealthy people can subvert culture through creating toxic culture? He didn't even know what I was talking about. What's toxic culture? Really? I mean, it's just a really naive view of the world. And when you say that to them, all the libertarian people ever say, the anarcho-capitalist people ever say is, yeah, but not if everybody agreed to these principles. Okay, well, the world doesn't work that way. And by the way, that doesn't mean that I'm a statist, right? Even though you guys will call anybody who doesn't accept your position statist. Okay, whatever, dude. Thank you for the $5, but yeah, go read something like, go listen to my many podcasts where I critique anarcho-capitalism. I actually deal with these questions, by the way. So to frame it as if every tax is a theft is an oversimplification, because even if you had a completely voluntarist society and you had individuals who compacted to have a private police department, you would have the same problems of the people who don't want to voluntarily opt into the private police department, then being overrun by all the people who did opt into the private police department. And it's just so naive to think that this is how people operate. Like, do you really think that in terms of geopolitics that nations are going to voluntarily agree to the non-aggression principle? I mean, really? You're that naive? I mean, go read a book like this. And then when you read this book and you figure out what the world really is like, then see if you think that the ideals in your anarcho-capitalist system will ever translate into anything approximating how the world really works. And it'll never translate into reality because the world is fallen. People are not going to operate as non-aggression principle accepting people because there's a lot of wicked, nasty, evil, degenerate, con men people in the world. By the way, the stuff in Most Wanted Man, I've covered that in regard to Islamic banking and how that works when we covered Dreyfus's book, Devil's Game. And I covered it when I covered this gigantic fat Secret Affairs by Mark Curtis book when we lectured through all of those. You can find my lectures through those books. You're talking 600, 300, 1,000 pages of how Islam and the West interrelate at the intelligence level in those books. Those aren't conspiracy theories, by the way. Those are mainline analysts. Tropes, $5. Can we get a Kissinger impression? Maybe a Kissinger bars. This is Henry Kissinger writing many bars. This is Henry Kissinger falling over at the drunken bar. How's that? Henry Kissinger writing bars. Henry Kissinger falling over drunk at the bars. I don't know. I have nothing else. I'm sorry. I was in libertarian argument mode. And then I can't immediately transition into Kissinger rapping mode. That's the best I could do with that at this point. All right. Thank you guys so much. I know it was a weird stream. And the Inception stream was about to be, I was going to do that. And then I realized when we were watching Operation Mincemeat the other night, I was like, I need to do that because I've never done Confessions of a Dangerous Mind. I've never done Most Wanted Man. It's very relevant. And I've never done Operation Mincemeat, which we talked about for so long in all the Bond stuff. Remember all the Bond podcasts, the book, all of those articles, and Mincemeat would come up quite a bit. And then they make this movie about it. I didn't even know there was a movie, right? If you're watching any stodgy British drama, you see Toby Jones, if you see Colin Firth, you're watching a stodgy British drama, especially little Toby Jones over there. Always making that same face. In every British, that dude is in every British. He's in more British dramas than Colin Firth is. Anyway, everybody have a good night. If you would, please like and share. Oh, by the way, a lot of you people, you need to work on that toxic soy anti-masculinity that you got going. And thankfully, we have a way to help you do that over here at Jay's Analysis. That is through our show sponsor named Choq.com, CHOQ.com. If you want to destroy that inner soy and bring out that phoenix eagle from the ashes, toxic masculinity man that's about to come out of you, that wants to pop up out of you. What's a pop off? What's a pop off? There's a little phoenix inside of you. He wants to pop out. He wants to pop off. Well, you can do that. You can pop off with that little inner phoenix. Get rid of that inner soy by going over to Choq.com. That's CHOQ.com. Putting in the promo code J50. That gives you 50% off any of the products over there. As you guys know, I'm a big fan of the Daily. If you want to supplement your nutrient deficient diet, start with Choq Daily. If you're looking for just energy boost, you want to go for the Action 2.0. If you're wanting mental clarity, this is Jamie's favorite. She takes every day. She legit. She's burning through the books right now on that. She legit. It's legit. If you were looking for testosterone boosting, that T-Boost, I'm a big fan of the Tomcat 100 Tomcat Ali. And if there's anything else you want, they've got it all over there in stacks. You can order several products proper to men, several products proper to women. It's already set up for you. You can also do recurring orders. You don't want to have to put all that crap back in a month. just set up the recurring order and use the promo code J53Life, JAY53Life, JAY53Life. That gets you 53% off any recurring subscriptions. But if you just want to test it out with one order, get you a stack of a big chunk of these, then use the promo code J50 and immediate 50% off. By the way, they're trying to push that legislation to where we can't promote supplements online. If they pass that legislation, I think in Illinois, then it'll set precedent and then it'll be a problem. So we don't know how long we'll have Chalk as a sponsor. They've been sponsor for many months now. We love Chalk. Awesome, Austin-based, red-pilled, cool as heck company. Okay, they're not out there blowing their money on fireworks. They're supporting Jay's analysis, right? They're over there getting buff, doing their thing, right? Killing that inner soy boy, bringing out that inner phoenix from the soy ashes. Genghis Khan sends $10 and he says, here's Pay Piggy. I had a dude, met a new dude the other day, friend of the show, we'll say. And he said, I'm glad to meet you, Jay. Love your content, love your debates. Have you had any new hit tunes? So what? Bro, where you been? We dropped 2 bombs in the last month. He was like, what's Pay Piggy? I said, what's Pay Piggy? You better catch up on my content, boy. We got 2 hits now. Pay Piggy, Gossiping. By the way, we have some new hits coming. Hopefully they'll be, now I keep setting the bar so high. Can I keep rolling out the hits? Maybe. We'll see. We'll see. But thank you for that, Genghis Khan. BMX 1966. Big time. Long time. Super chatter. Jay, can you do the chalk.com ad in an Alex accent like Dean was saying at the end? Folks, it is unbelievable the degree to which they have suppressed our inner male vitality. Get over to chalk.com right now and utilize that. The Alex impression wrecks my vocal cords, dude. I don't know how he does it. How was that? I almost did it until I start coughing. But that's the best we could do. How was that? You like that? All right. If you would hit like and share. Tell me what you think I missed in these shows. A lot of people will be watching this tomorrow. A lot of people watching the next day, in the next 2 weeks. Like it, share it. Tell me what I missed. Guys that do the clips, guys that like the goofy things that I do, the funny things that happen, feel free to clip and share. Clip and share. Clip and share. I feel like a Skittles barber. Clip and share. Clip and share. Clip and share. Just clip and